So today we're going to be looking at how to factorize the quadratic equation, and like a lot of other things in maths, this is very methodic and simplistic and follows a set of rules. Before I dive in further, I just want to clarify what the quadratic equation itself is. The quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Now to factorize the quadratic expression, we just want to consider the left hand side, which is ax squared plus bx plus c. To factorize this, we just have to remember a simple set of rules. Firstly, we have to find two factors of AC that add up to B. Now what does this mean? This means that if you were to take something, A times C, if you were to take two numbers, they would give you AC, right? So if you took two numbers, let's say we can call them Y and Z, they would give you AC. And if you were to add these two numbers up, they would give you B. Okay? Then you rewrite the B term as a sum of these two factors. So now since B is equal to these two, you can break this up and write it as a sum of that. Then you factorize each pair of terms and take out the common factors. Now to illustrate this, I'm going to start with a simple expression. 2x squared plus 5x minus 3. To factorize this, first you have to figure out what AC is. AC is equal to negative 6. Okay, because A is this is our B, and this is our C. Now A times C gives us negative 6, and B is obviously 5. Now remember, according to these rules, we have to find some two terms, Y and Z, that when you multiply them, you get negative 6, and when you add them, you get B. For this expression, this is negative 1 and 6. Let me just do that here. Negative 1 plus 6 gives you 5. And when you multiply negative 1 and 6, it gives you negative 6. So for this expression, we can say that negative 1 is the y and this is the z. Now, like I said, you have to break up the b into this. Over here, we do 2x squared. And then on the other side, we'll just write negative 3. And now the b part, we can break into this. We can write negative 1x plus 6x. If you think about it, this part is still positive 5x. It is that we just broke it up into two parts. And now we have to factorize each pair of terms. So this would become x. You take the x common from these two, right? So to factorize these two terms, I'll split it up, plus 6, right? Plus 6x. So think of it like that. We can take the x common from these two, so it becomes 2x over here minus 1. And on this side, you take a 3 outside, so it comes plus 3, 2x minus 1. Now, if you observe this expression, you can see that both of these terms share 2x minus 1. So you can further factorize out, and you can take commons. So over here, we're going to take common 2x minus 1. 2x minus 1. We've taken that as common from both of these terms. Now to get x into this, we just multiply this by x. And to get this side, this entire term over here, we just have to, so these two terms are now what's left. For the first term, we multiply by x. For the second term, we just multiply by 3. Okay? Okay, so now we have got this, and that's it. We factorize our expression. It's as simple as that. Now, one common type of expression that I want you guys to look out for is x squared minus y squared. This always factorizes into x plus y and x minus y. This type of expression is known as the difference between two squares. An example, you can say x squared minus 16. At first glance, this looks like a normal expression, just like something like this. However, if you look at it, negative 16 is a square number. This is negative 4 squared. So in a sense, this is x squared minus 4 squared. We can apply this rule, and immediately we know that it's x plus y and x minus y, which is x plus 4 and x minus 4. Now before we move on to some practice questions, I do want you to be aware of one critical key rule. This is when, like I said before, the factorizing of two squares, so the difference between two squares, this only applies when you have a negative sign in the middle. And you can do this, right? But this only works, like I said, when you have a negative sign. The moment you put a plus in the middle, this doesn't apply anymore, okay? So it only works with a negative sign. Now, on to some practice questions. Okay, so we have a question right here, x squared minus 5x minus 6. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to apply the rules that we learned. First, we're going to find two factors of a and c. To help you out over here, I'll write this down. This is a, this is our b, and this is our c. Okay, we have to find two factors which, when you multiply them, they go to ac, and when you add them together, they become b, right? Again, this is really easy. It's similar to last time. We know that these two terms will be negative 6 and 1. When you add them together, you get negative 5. When you multiply negative 6 and 1, you get negative 6, which is AC. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to split the middle term into two. We're going to go x squared minus 6x plus 1x minus 6 is equal to 0. From here on out, we're just going to split these up into two. We're going to deal with this side and this side. We're going to take x common over here. X into x squared, x into x minus 6. And on this side, we have 1 as a common, okay, which is alright, into x minus 6. Okay, when you have something like this, you can take 1 as a common, but you have to take it into a common because of the next step, which now, like we did before, x minus 6 is taken common from these two terms, and then we just do x plus 1, which when you multiply this out, it comes back all the way to the top. Now, if you notice something in this situation, is that these two terms are just what's here at the end, right? So in a sense, this extra step, this was unnecessary, okay? Now, what do I mean? How do you remove this extra step? Well, let's go back to the question. X squared minus 5x minus 6, okay? And we can find two terms that when you add them together, they come to b, right? But this only applies if the coefficient of x is 1. If the coefficient of the x over here is not 1, we cannot do this, like in the previous question when it was a 2. As long as the coefficient of x is 1, we just have to focus on b. In this situation, the two numbers were negative 6 and 1. And then we can just substitute them into this, x, and we just put these two terms in. And it's really that simple. You can see these two answers are the exact same. So that's a very key rule, that if the coefficient of x over here is 1, you don't have to go through this step of splitting up the middle term. However, it's an equally valid and actually, in fact, in some cases, better method of showing that you're working, because sometimes you get marks for this step. However, if the question is only 2 marks for the answer, you don't need to show all of these extra steps. Now, I'm going to go on to showing you how to solve these. Okay, so how do you solve these quadratic expressions? For this one, I'm going to take a different one. Let's go with 6x squared minus 11x minus 10 is equal to 0. Okay, so now it's not an expression anymore, it's an equation. So how do we solve these equations? Well, first of all, we still have to factorize the left-hand side. Okay, so we're going to go ahead with factorizing this. And to factorize this, we know that AC is equal to negative 60. Okay, and B is obviously negative 11. Okay, now what terms can we do that add up to this and multiply to this and all of that? Well, it's 4 and negative 15. If you do negative 15 times 4, you can say that y is equal to 4 and z is equal to 15. Okay, negative 15. If you multiply these together, you get negative 60. And if you add them together, you get negative 11. Now remember what I said last time. The coefficient of x in this case is not 1. So we have to break the middle term into 2, which we're going to go ahead and do right now. let's take green for this one, 6x squared minus 15x plus 4x minus 10 is equal to 0. Now we're just going to go ahead and again take these two sides, think of these as two different sides, and we're going to factor them out, and we're just going to take commons and all of that stuff, which is going to come out over here. We're going to take 3x outside, which will be left with 2x minus 5, right? And on this side we're going to take a 2 as a common, so plus 2x minus 5. Now when you're solving these questions yourself in exams and stuff, okay, first of all, remember to put the negative 0. This carries through all the way. Okay? And secondly, when you're solving these yourself, when you factorize this, the second step, these two terms inside the brackets must be the same. If they're not, you've done something wrong, so you should go back and check your work. Now we do the same old thing. 2x minus 5, okay, in brackets, into 3x from here and plus 2 from here is equal to 0. Now, if I was to tell you that there's two numbers, a times b, and they equal to 0, you can easily tell me that at least one of these, if not both of them, are equal to 0. We can apply that same concept over here. We know that at least one of these, if not both of them, are equal to 0. So we can say that 2x minus 5 is equal to 0, or 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. And, well, this could be an and or, but in mathematics we just stick with saying or. So now we have these two sides, and we just have to solve this like any other normal simple algebraic equation. We're going to start with this one. So we add 5 to both sides. We're left with 2x is equal to 5. And then we divide 2 from both sides. And our final answer comes out to x is equal to 5 over 2, which is also 2.5. But remember the or, right? It could be this or this side. Same thing, you subtract 2 from both sides over here. Get 3x is equal to negative 2. So therefore x is equal to negative 2 over 3, which can also be known as negative 0.66 recurring. That's how simple it is to factorize and solve quadratic equations. Remember the rule, the coefficient one. Remember the simple rules, which I'll repeat for you. First, you have to find two factors of AC that add up to b, like we did over here. Then you rewrite the b term, the middle term, as a sum of these two factors, like we did over here. The two factors were negative 15 and 4. So we rewrote the middle term as two factors. And then you factorize each pair of terms. Think of this as one pair and this as one pair. You factorize them individually almost. And then you keep on going, taking out the common factors. Over here we took out the 2x minus 5. And then you solve each part of its equation as its own because of this rule. A times b, one of them has to be equal to 0. There's no other way we can get 0. So this must be it. That's really how easy it is to solve and factor quadratic equations.